to do cast iron roasted chicken and stir-fried vegetables over rice. So let's get started. I'd like to start off with marinating the chicken. What I like to use is boneless thighs because they are dark meat which stays moist, and they're cut pretty thin so they will roast very quickly and very evenly. So we're going to do a teriyaki style marinade, and that basically means something sweet and something salty. So let's start with the sweet, and I'm going to use a couple tablespoons of honey. You could use sugar or you could use maple syrup, but I'm going to use this honey here. And our saltiness is going to be a couple tablespoons of soy sauce. You don't have to make this super wet. And I'm going to add a little bit of ketchup. And this is a spicy ketchup, by the way. There we go. And we will just kind of mix this up. Think of the meat as like pieces of sponge. And so by marinating and massaging, this will marinate very quickly. Also, I should note that the chicken, or whatever meat we're going to marinate, should be close to room temperature. Don't keep it at room temperature, for an unsafe period of time. But if you take the meat out of the refrigerator about 15 or 20 minutes beforehand, you'll get that warmed up. Remember, when the meat is cold, the fat will coagulate, and you won't be able to actually do much marinating when it's cold. But this way, it marinates very quickly. So, what I'm going to do now is I have heated up a cast iron griddle. It's under the broiler, and it's very hot. It's been in there for about 15 minutes or so. The best thing to do is to preheat it so that it's heated through and through on the bottom. And what I'll do is I'm going to just coat this very hot griddle with a little bit of oil. The best oil if you're doing high temperature is avocado oil. Just like that. Not a lot of oil, but just enough to coat it. What's great about avocado oil is it gets up to 500 degrees before it starts to smoke, which is exactly what you want. So if you kind of stop and think about it, what's going to happen is that the cast iron is very hot. And so as soon as I put the chicken that's marinating onto the cast iron, it's going to start to cook. And then what I'll do is I'll put this right under the broiler. So it's cooking from the bottom, and then it will continue to cook on the top. And this will happen very quickly. It should cook through. Again, remember it's at room temperature. So it's probably going to cook in about 6 minutes or so pretty quickly. But we'll make sure that that's done. What I'll do next is let me talk about the rice. So I've started the rice already, and what I've done is I've put in about 1/3 to 1/4 cup of rice, of raw rice per person, into this pan. And I've put in enough water so that when I touch the top of the rice with my fingertip, the water will just come just right to the first joint of my index finger, not touching the bottom of the pot, but the top of the rice. Then what I do is I bring it to a boil, keep it covered. As soon as it boils, I put it on low. And then 10 minutes after that, without lifting the cover, the rice will be done. So I have already done that part just to make sure that the rice is done. You can see it's steaming right here. So it's been steaming for 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I am going to shut this off now. So after it's steamed for 10 minutes, you can actually just let it rest. And it will hold its heat. It won't overcook, probably for another 15 to a half an hour. So while the rice is just kind of finishing up cooking, let me do some cooking of some vegetables. So what we'll do is turn on our wok. It's on medium high. I'm going to put in my avocado oil. It's a couple tablespoons. Now I'm going to start by browning some tofu. So this is a vegetarian stir fry. And what I'll do, this is firm. I'm going to cut this into 1/2-inch blocks. Just like that. And we're going to lightly brown the tofu. Now tofu is basically just vegetarian cheese. It's made the same way cheese is, except instead of animal's milk, cow's milk or goat's milk, we're going to use soy milk in making the tofu. And we'll let that brown up. While that's heating up, I'm going to add some spices, and I'm going to add some garlic and some ginger. And what I do, you saw what I did with the garlic. I basically just crushed it with the cleaver. And I can do the same thing with the ginger. There we go. Give this a stir. And you can see it's starting to brown up a little bit here on the edges. So I'm going to turn this up a little bit. And now we'll put in our ginger and garlic. And what this will do is it will add its flavor to the oil and to the tofu. All right. So the next thing we'll do is we will put in some vegetables. And you want to put in your vegetables in the order that you want them to cook the longest. So carrots generally take a while to cook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's called a roll cut, where I give the carrot a quarter roll each time I cut it. And I'm cutting it at a 45-degree angle. Again, it's a bite-sized pieces. And we'll put that right in. And we'll give that another stir. This is on high heat. We want to maintain that sizzling sound that you're hearing. What's nice about the wok is the shape of the wok keeps all of the liquid and oil in the hottest part of the wok. So things above the oil are generally not as hot. The next thing I'm going to put in is Brussels sprouts. We generally like our Brussels sprouts to be caramelized. So what I'll do is cut the stems off. And then I'll use that flat surface that I made cutting the stems off to just expose the interior to be cut. We'll just peel off some of the outer layers. There we go. And we'll put these guys right in. And again, we'll stir them. So what's happening is the oil and the ginger and the garlic are really just kind of combining their flavors. The carrots will add a little sweetness, which is nice. There we go. So let's pause for a minute and let's take a look at our chicken, because I believe it has been pretty close to 5 minutes. And if we did it correctly, the top of that chicken should be nice and brown. There it is. And you don't have to turn it over, because remember, this was very, very hot, so it cooked from the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this rest. I'm going to shut the heat off. If we wanted to, we could serve this right now. But since I'm still cooking my vegetables, we'll just let that rest. What's great about this is because it's the thigh meat, it's not going to dry out. So we'll just keep that in the oven and it will be ready when we are. Our rice is almost done as well. And here's our tofu getting crispy. Our carrots are softening up. And our Brussels sprouts, they're getting there. They're going to need a little more time, but they'll get there, because now we're going to add some more vegetables. So remember I said we want to put the vegetables in the order that we want them to cook longest. So generally people like their onions to be a little bit sweet. So we'll put the onion in and we'll give that a stir as well. What will happen is the heat will have those onions, they'll fall apart in a little while. And you can see the Brussels sprouts. See, they're starting to caramelize. See the little dark there? So we'll get there. No hurry. So let's make the sauce for our vegetables. In here we have a mixture of Chinese wine. This is a rice wine, and some soy sauce, some of the ketchup, and to that we're going to add some 5 spice powder. There we go, and this has a slight licorice flavor, along with some the tanginess of some Szechuan peppercorns, which, by the way, are not hot as much as they're a little tangy, and they will numb your tongue a little bit. And some cornstarch to make a little bit of a glaze when we put that in. We want to make sure that there aren't any lumps here. So we'll give that a stir in a minute. Let's go back over here. This is cooking up nicely. And let's move back to some more vegetables. We have some sliced mushrooms, which we don't want overcooked, but we do want them to take on some flavor. So we'll give that a little bit of a stir. So you can see that tofu is really nice and crispy now. See, it's nice browned up. It's good. And let's put in some broccoli florets. Another stir. And let's put in some sugar snap peas. And aside from our last thing, the scallions, the sugar snap peas, they went in close to the end. And that's because I like my sugar snap peas to snap, to actually be a little bit crispy. You can see the broccoli has already started to blanch, started to turn bright green. And the last thing we'll add are some scallions. I'll cut these at about a 45-degree angle. Again, about, half-inch size. There we go. One more stir. You can hear those beans sizzling and popping. That's what you want. Nothing's overcooked here. They're crispy. And then let's add our sauce. So we'll just pour that right in. And I'm going to turn this heat right down. Oh, it smells great. Too bad you don't have smell-o-vision. Okay. So stir-fry things, you want to eat those as soon as possible. So let's take a look at the rice. I'll open that right up. There it is. Nice and fluffy. So remember, bring it to a boil, keep it covered. After 10 minutes, you can turn it off, keep it covered, and it'll be great. So, here we go. Let's take a look at our chicken. Remember, I didn't have to turn it over. So let's revert to, let's take a look in here. Oh, look at that. It's very moist, very tender. So if you do this with a chicken breast, what you'll need to do is you'll need to cover each breast, you know, with either wax paper or plastic wrap, and pound it down so that it's all kind of one thickness. So the best way to eat this would be with some rice. Put some vegetables in here. Make sure I get some of my tofu. So you can see the Brussels sprouts are nice and caramelized. And let's grab some of this chicken. Let's see. So let's try, I'm going to try a vegetable first. Crispy. And some chicken. So there you have it. Iron roasted chicken, stir-fried vegetables, and steamed rice. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.